Okay, so this was a request from yesterday's stream. And this is Kevin Nash on the polarization of American politics.
So we were talking, Kevin, you and I, about we started by talking about Bill Maher, the Bill Maher show.
Right.
And we got to talking about the change in political discourse and what the function that politics has in societal life.
Right.
And you actually turned me on to a writer, John Meacham, right?
Yeah, one of my favorites.
And the quote that I had was, and it's relevant because we do talk politics here on this show, and when we do, it's funny. I read comments and people are surprised that we have opinions on both sides of the spectrum sometimes, and I'm surprised that not more people do, and I'm a little terrified that people subscribe to one doctrine.
Can I say something? Can I say something on that?
It's your show. You could say anything.
So before we go into this, because I know where this is going to lead, because we actually, we talked about this, and I thought Meacham was brilliant on the show. But so today, before I came over here, I was just watching the news, and the masturbator that's in charge of this Trump situation,
the special masturbator,
the special masturbator. He was basically wanted to, the Trump legal team said that the President Trump had declassified this information, and he basically said, well, that's great, but you guys are going to have to prove it, and none of them kind of would stick their neck out, and they weren't going to perjure themselves, and it got into, and it went back and forth, and then so they've got a Republican and a Democrat that they're talking to, whoever I think it was. I forget.
Depending on what it is, the president has wide powers to declassify shit. But anyway, why? I guess maybe why do you care so much?
Who the host was, but and they were both in this back and forth, and then the Democrat guy said, yeah, but whether he did or he didn't, it doesn't change this and it doesn't change that, and they this thing was such a fucking powder keg when it went off. I remember waking up and and seeing that they had stormed his Mar-a-Lago and all this other shit. It's now at the point where when it comes out, when this shit about these classified papers come up to me on the news, I'm like, hey, buzz me when it's fucking newsworthy, not when it's just some talking point to try to keep, it's went nowhere.
They're still in the chin lock.
Yeah, exactly. It's just fuck, man. I don't get it. We said earlier, when that thing first happened, I said, if this isn't fucking rock solid, the Democrats are fucked.
Yeah.
And I like when this is another one I love too. When people say, why do you hate Donald Trump? And I'm just like, I don't know, Donald. I don't know. I mean, I don't have enough real estate in my brain to hate people. I just don't. I don't get, people say, oh, he lives rent free in your brain. No, he doesn't. Dude, you're not in my head. There's so many times I'm like Patrick on fucking SpongeBob. I'm just not thinking about shit, man. Fuck no.
But I just want to hit the Meacham quote. Because
the thing is Nash isn't wrong. If it isn't rock solid, I mean, the Democrats just fucked themselves again.
It was perfect. He talked about, he said that he I guess referenced what was going on in the last administration as a return to the 30s, right? Clearly referencing dictatorship and maybe echoes of Hitler and whatnot. And he said, actually, as this has played out, it's more like the 1850s.
Yeah.
And the quote was, he said, politics is supposed to be a mediation of differences to arrive at a solution. But now it's culture warfare. That term, culture warfare, Kev.
What is a woman?
Well, okay, so I did a little bit of research, and
Okay, this is what the culture war is. A bunch of people not willing to concede an inch. And a bunch of people trying to ram their ideals down other people's throats. But if you're thinking we're headed for a second civil war, I can assure you we're not. Because again, when the first Civil War happened, people, first off, felt way more loyal to their state than they did the country. Because again, 20 miles was a day's journey. That's like, we can do that in 20 minutes.
I was a sociology major, was one of, and I have not read James Davison Hunter's Culture War book, but I guess it's kind of the Bible on the culture war. And it was basically saying that usually, well, there's a couple of things that were frightening. Is you can't have a culture war. I mean, you can't have like a violent confrontation where people are shooting. Like that doesn't happen unless you have culture war, which we definitely have a culture war. And it's usually by religion, ethnicity, social class, political affiliation. But now it's about, like everything that is based now is by ideology and worldviews. And the one thing that Meacham said in that when he was on the show was, and he made reference to the fact of love your neighbor. He said, "What? Why do I have to love my neighbor? Why do I have to fucking give in? I don't like that." It's just like, if some of us don't give a little, man, this shit ain't ever gonna get fixed.
It's personal inconvenience has trumped all, no pun intended. One's personal inconvenience and one's deviation from one's own personal manifesto. Like there was a time in my life, and I'm younger than you, where two people on opposite ends of the political spectrum could have a cogent, intelligent debate. It could be an exchange of ideas, and the rule of politics and checks and balances and a Senate and a House and all that stuff was because disparate ideas would have to funnel into one area, and then what would come out would be the meted out compromise, and law or whatever's being debated would come out as a result of that. Now it gets hacked apart, and it's this mess of chopped detritus. Nothing, I feel, comes out.
Because here's the thing. And I'll blame both of them. Fuck it. But in particular, the left, what they want to do is utter insanity. This is the problem. Both sides had not gone bananas, or at least one side had not gone bananas. Both sides were putting up reasonable proposals. Right now, maybe I'm biased, but you got one side going free everything. Cancel rent, cancel mortgage, cancel student debt, get rid of the cops, get rid of the prisons, free health care for everyone, and no plan to pay for it except tax the smallest group of people in the country more. Which, by the way, even if you tax them at 100%, after, let's say, $1 million in a single year, you still wouldn't come up with anywhere near enough money to pay for it. Then, people are broke. Let's just print a bunch of fucking funny money that causes inflation and consequently prices to go up. We're running out. We're running out of diesel. They have to know at some point, and their solution is, well, everybody just drives a goddamn electric car, despite the fact that how much damage is done to the environment mining all the fucking lithium. And the other side is, hey, maybe let's not do that. But the Republicans made a huge mistake in the midterms. They're like, all right, we can finally do it. We can finally start restricting abortion. Now, I really don't give a rat's ass if they restrict abortion or not. As a man, you have no reproductive rights. So, sorry, ladies, I'm not going to fight for you. You're not going to do a damn thing to help me, so I'm not going to do a damn thing to help you.
Of Washington as a pared down, maybe compromised, but something that both sides had a part of.
Well, I think that if you look back historically and you go to say 1960, and that's kind of your kickoff point, and that was kind of that 30 years from 60 to 90, you had civil rights, you had women's rights, you had
Nash, you had women's rights. That really got settled in the early part of the 20th century. I mean, you could make a small argument that the women were just trying to get equal opportunities in business. And by the way, that led to the downfall we're currently seeing now, because it took women out of where they rightfully should be, and that's, like it or not, ladies, in the goddamn home. In the goddamn house. Consequently, ever since the rise of feminism, women's happiness has gone down every fucking year. Seriously, decade by decade, women's happiness has decreased. That's why fewer and fewer women are actually identifying as feminists.
You had so many. I mean, it was abortion rights were huge. Basically, the kids on campus were one of the major factors that got the Vietnam War stopped. So from that, you go into the sexual revolution, gay marriage, gay equality for I mean, and as you do that.
Well, the problem is the gay marriage thing it was always going to end up this way. Because you can't pass a law that says this group of people gets special rights and privileges under the law and this group doesn't. You can't do it. And because, again, unless you want to say that people that are infertile for one reason or another, then you have to strip their ability to get married away, and you're not going to do that. You know, because they're so it's just it always has to. You can't base a law based on morality, basically. Morality laws in the United States are pretty much illegal.
And at the same time, after World War II, people are now going to college. So higher education now becomes the easiest way for people to become upper middle class.
You're not wrong, but you're also not 100% right. College really picked up, I would say, more in the Vietnam War, because if you went to college, you couldn't be drafted if you were a student. So they did it as a way to get out of the draft.
So as that progresses, and that like 60 is where it starts, then all of a sudden the ideology of those with the higher education.
And the kids mostly that were college kids during that particular time were the first generation of kids anyway, of the baby boomers. We were all large, so they were the first generation of baby boomers. Because my generation, the millennials, were the kids of the baby boomers.
nation becomes more science-based, less theologian, less, and
Nash, I hate to keep cutting you off, but you didn't really see an explosion of theocracy or theology in this country until the Red Scare. I mean, we've always had religious people in the country, but at the founding of the country, you know, those guys, Jefferson, Adams, and Washington, went to church way less often. Yeah, it's Sunday, the Lord's Day, but crops ain't going to harvest themselves.
But some of it's seen as radical, like in the 60s, right? I mean, when these thoughts were first introduced, the 60s was the era of the radicalization, but the radicalization of the 60s becomes like the normalization of the 70s.
And the normalization of the 70s was that the left was seen as the intellectual, and the right was seen as the societal. The left was taking things up one way, and the right was like, no, the family's breaking down. And then you go to Clinton and that era, and women are fighting, are in the wars fighting. There's so many, like, abortion is on demand.
Did we have women on the front lines? Oh, and by the way, do you want, honestly, probably the quickest way to kill the 19th, just make it mandatory that women have to sign up for the draft or they don't get to vote. And suddenly you'll see a lot of women not voting. And yeah, I think women should have to sign up for the draft. I thought we had an equal society here. They can sign up for the draft too. I don't think there's ever going to be a draft, so. But yeah, I think women should have to sign up for the draft as well.
Like, all these things are changing. I remember, I think it was 90.
I mean, you're never going to have the bucket brigade.
I'm saying that 92, and Pat Buchanan, I think it was 92 when he ran.
It was the first. It was the first. Clinton won. Clinton's first term,
and it was. I think he ran against Old Man Bush, and
he did.
And he ended up like separatizing the Republican vote so Clinton could get reelected.
No, it wasn't Pat Buchanan. He might have run in a primary, but nobody was stopping Bush's reelection. Actually, I thought Pat Buchanan ran in 88. It wouldn't have mattered. Nobody was going to stop Ronald Reagan's VP. But what split the vote and what gave Clinton the victory most likely, I mean, Bush had a few problems. But if you want to talk about who split the vote, it was Ross Perot, not Pat Buchanan. Ross Perot ran as an independent.
Even though I know that Clinton lost the Congress in 94. Then, so from there we go forward and we go into the Tea Party, and and that extreme right that Palin and that came, and then they were defeated.
No, the Tea Party just morphed into the current Republican Party. And Tea Party was a response to, I think, Obama, not Clinton. Like, your timeline here, Kev, is all over the damn map.
And we went into the Barack, and then from there,
the Tea Party was a response to Obama. Because if you want to get the closest we got to a Pat Buchanan president was George W. Bush. Or George II, as I call him. Okay, so let's finish the rest of this.
We came out and it became a situation of, Obama, Trump wanted to change all the norms again. And instead of there being, it became ideology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you consider
Yeah, but the problem is it was kind of picking up with Bernie Sanders. But during the Trump years, the extreme left, the progressives, the leftists, the whatever you want to call them, they started to somehow get traction. And now you have members on the Democrat side openly embracing socialism. And socialism, my friend, sucks.
the fact, and this is a Meacham thing also, if you consider the fact that civil rights, I mean, as a black man or woman in America, if you're using like 1965 maybe as the dividing line, right? And the popular cry in the last few years was, go back to the way it used to be, the way it was. Well, 1965 was, almost 60 years ago. When are we talking about going back to?
You know that before LBJ did the Great Society, do you know that blacks were actually getting to be on par in terms of wealth with whites? Your average black family had about just as much money as your average black, or your average, you know what I mean. Like they had bought homes. They had money in the bank. And then what happened? The welfare state gets created. The Great Society, whatever you want to call it. Ever since then, everything's kind of gone downhill. Again, you can look this shit up.
Exactly. Because these the radicalization of the 60s they were civil rights issues. So are we talking about going back before that, or are we talking about going back 20 years ago?
There wasn't a black football player at the University of Mississippi at Ole Miss until 1972. 1972. 5 years later, my Detroit ass is walking around this campus, and I'm walking in Oxford, Mississippi, and black couples are coming towards me, and they're walking across the street because they won't pass me. They're walking across the street. I don't have a clue why.
What year is this?
1977.
Wow.
George Wallace ran. When did he run? Wallace.
72? Was it?
Didn't he win 5 states?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Give you a guess where the states were.
We just got rid of their Confederate flags this last run around.
Yeah, I don't see the big problem with the Confederate flag. It's kind of stupid. I mean, you lost the damn war. Get the fuck over it. But I also see it as a heritage thing. And there's plenty of black people that either A, have a Confederate flag, or B, don't give a sauteed rat's ass about it.
Well,
no,
It's like the Washington Redskins. 92% of Native Americans don't give a shit.
I just look at things and I say, wow, man, like I really thought that things would get better in life. And I really thought that like having a black president would change things. And
Did you seriously think it would change things? And what needs to be changed? What rights do I have as a white man that a black guy doesn't also enjoy? Like, seriously. I'd love to know this white privilege that I have. You'd figure I'd at least be able to get, considering his history, a free pizza from Papa John's.
I think that we're racially as divided as we were in '67 when I watched Detroit burn down.
Yeah, but fuck it, I don't care. It ain't the whites that are harboring the racism. Most of the racism I see come from people that look a lot closer to that Obama guy you were talking about.
if not more so.
Yeah,
Because,
I did kind of think we were out of it in under Obama.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
incredible how
I
far
knew we
back it's
weren't.
gone.
I knew we weren't in Florida when every time I put an Obama sign up in front of my house, it would go up missing. And then finally, I put a bumper sticker on the back of my Mustang, and somebody stuck like a killing knife through my bumper and left it there. And I thought, wow, man.
Wow. 68 was George Wallace. I'm sorry. Not
So was it
76.
68? Yeah.
68.
So 68 was when everything went down. Martin Luther King was killed. Bobby Kennedy was shot in 68.
Oh, Bobby Kennedy wasn't killed over race relations. The mob killed that man.
My dad died in 68. 68 was a fucked up year.
Fuck yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing good to say about 68, except the Tigers won.
All right, so you took something from it.
Hey.
Hi, my name is Alina, and I would like you to give you a few reasons why you should consider dating a young Slavic lady. You
No, your teeth are all fucked up. All right. That ends that one.